At that time, I thought, well, now I'm gonna die. I had metastasis, and this word for me was like the end of the line. But I was so glad that I had already knew Dr. Joe's work. And I remembered at that day that I say, I'm not gonna die with cancer. Back in June 2018, almost 5 years from now, I received a diagnosis of cancer, a very aggressive kind of cancer called triple negative. I was only 42 years old, and I had no cancer history in my family. I got very afraid of dying, and so I decided to go with the doctors, with the treatment that they were telling me to do. I did everything they wanted me to do. I started with a chemotherapy, very strong one, and then double mastectomy, and also surgery in my armpit because I have lymph nodes with cancer as well. And then radiotherapy, and then more chemo, oral chemo for 6 months. All the treatment was like almost 1 year and a half in treatment. And at that time, I was working very hard, making my company growth and studying and traveling and taking care of my children and dealing with all this stuff. I was a very workaholic person, all the time worrying about my job and my company and my employees, and a very difficult person to deal with because I wanted everything to be exactly as I wish. And I was feeling guilty because I had to travel a lot to work and I wasn't taking care of my kids. So I was dealing with all those emotions until the day that I received the diagnosis. I was in this kind of life. Then I decided to change. And I remembered at that time I was looking for books to read about this kind of new life that I wanted to live, to make this change in my life. And I found Dr. Joe's book in my library at home. So it was so amazing because when I saw that book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I remember that I was in Portugal for vacations and I went to a library there and I had to buy this book so I wouldn't pay the tickets for the library. And I liked the title and I got the book, but I didn't read it. And I started kind of meditating, just doing like twice a week, 3 times a week, a morning meditation. In 2020, I had already finished the treatment, and with the pandemic, everything started almost again the same in my life. I started getting worried with my clients, my employees, everybody asking for me, a lot of pressure in my life. I was feeling again afraid of life and feeling fear. And then in January 2021, I received a second diagnosis that I had metastasis, that I was with stage 4 cancer. The cancer came back to my breast, the one that I had mastectomy. So it was something really rare. And also the cancer was in my lungs. So for me, at that time I thought, well, now I'm gonna die. I had metastasis, and this word for me was like the end of the line. But I was so glad that I had already knew Dr. Joe's work. And I remembered at that day that I say, I'm not gonna die with cancer. I will heal myself. I'll go deep in this work. I will understand this work, and I will meditate, and I will do something different. So I decided to go to Cancun, to the retreat there in February 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. I was in chemotherapy again, but I got an international flight and I went to the retreat, expecting to be healed there, expecting to receive a healing there, because I knew it could happen. And then when I arrived there, And people from the staff told me that they weren't doing coherence healing there because of the pandemic. I said, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna die again. But I was there and everybody was telling me, don't worry, you'll be healed if you want to. You have this power of creating your own life. Just be here and you'll see. So I started understanding there back in Cancun, 2021, that 21st, that I had this power. So during all the retreat, it was really wonderful to be there and understand and do all the meditations and then start really changing myself. The next 3 months after this retreat, I meditated every day, like 5 hours a day, 3 times a day, because I knew I had a lot to do with me to transform me in another person, in my new version. And 3 months later, I did the scan again, and the cancer got worse in my breast. But in my lungs, it disappeared. So I was, oh my gosh, what is going on here? But I was already doing the work. So I feel everything is fine. Just keep doing what we're doing. Just keep changing. And in May, I was a healer in a remote coherence healing. And I could feel all the energy there in Brazil where I was. And one thing that is important to say, at the beginning, I had this thought that, well, I'm just by myself in the middle of Brazil. I don't know if this healing is going to work with me. I was thinking that I didn't have that power to heal myself. So in May, I received the coherence healing, a remote one. And in July, again, more scans, and the cancer was completely gone. I had no sign of cancer in my body, and my doctors were very surprised because only with 4 months and a half, 5 months, I had nothing else. So they stopped chemo, and they say, well, we'll stop doing chemo and we'll keep testing you each 3 months. I say, okay, we will keep testing, but I know I'm healed. And since then, almost 2 years, I am cancer-free. I am another person, and I feel this feeling of gratitude. And I heard Dr. Joyce saying something that really relates to me. I had 2 very, very relevant and important teachers in my life. One, of course, Dr. Joe, who I love very much, and the disease. The disease was a great teacher for me. It reminded me every day to keep changing, to keep looking inside of me and finding the love that I have now for me and for my life. And I live a perfect life now in all the senses. My company is better than ever. My marriage, my daughters, my family, my health. I feel so in peace with everything. It's so wonderful to know that I understood. And then I keep growing and working in myself and coming to this wonderful community that was so supportive to me all the time. And being able to see Dr. Joe and learning from him every day I keep listening to his audios and his podcasts and reading the books again and again and being part of this community to learn, because life is a wonderful journey and we'll be always learning. And when I realized that I had this power of creating my own reality, and life was something very different from what I was understanding before all of this. I was a very skeptical person, a very logical, only thinking about business and KPIs and strategic planning. And now that I understood, I am so much happier. And I can tell everyone how wonderful was this process for me, this blessing of living this opportunity to grow and to be another person. So thank you so much, Dr. Joe, and all the community that I love so much.